Remember the summer? The COVID restrictions were eased and we all felt a sense of relief and hope. We were told to eat out, to help out. Now, as the infection numbers have spiked again, we must once again join hands with the rest of the United Kingdom in another nationwide effort to beat the virus. There is an aspect of this which we Jews need to consider. We spend so much of our time focusing on our unique and distinctive heritage, our mitzvot, which often look so out of place, and our values, which can seem stern and prescriptive in this permissive and tolerant country. We steel ourselves to be different. So how exactly do we relate to our fellow Britons who are suffering the same fate as us? What does the Torah say about our relationship to our non-Jewish friends at such a time? Are we meant to care or do anything? And if so, what do we do? And how much are we expected to do? Is there to be a comradely empathy which finally unites us all? Our father Avraham faced a similar dilemma. At the end of last week's parasha, we read that he was the first person in the world to undergo circumcision, and this set him apart from his society. No one understood what he had done. The Midrash says that after his bris, Avraham was afraid that people would avoid him, and that his life's work as a preacher of monotheism and kindness would come to an end. That is why, at the beginning of this week's parasha, we find Avraham sitting anxiously at the entrance of his tent in the intense midday heat. That is why he literally ran to some passers-by and begged them to come and have lunch with him. He wanted to tell them and us that his distinctive Jewish identity should never prevent him from contributing to the life of humanity as a whole. On the contrary, it was precisely because he was a Jew that he felt called to minister to the needs of others. This is how Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch reads the beginning of our parasha. And the same message is true for us now. Every mitzvah that seems to distinguish and distance us is actually there to help us to bring a new and beautiful value into the lively discourse that populates our media and public spaces. Every message is one that the world needs to hear, one that we can offer proudly wherever we go, in whatever era we live. Let us see how this works through some of our least understood mitzvot. We avoid eating meat and milk, since meat is an animal that has died, and milk was the thing that kept it alive. To cook meat in milk is to mock life, and Judaism teaches that life is sacred. So when we double up our kitchen arrangements to have meat and milk kept separate, or we refrain from joining in a business lunch, we are actually making an impassioned stand for the very first article in the European Convention on Human Rights, the right to life. Of course, there's much more to the mitzvah than that, but this is a message which we can take from it to preach to the rest of the world. Here's another set of mitzvot which seem very strange. Twice a year, at Pesach and at Sukkot, we revisit the experience of the Exodus. At Pesach, we eat the food that we ate when we left Egypt. And at Sukkot, we live in the same kind of huts that we lived in after we left our Egyptian mud huts behind. With these major 8-day transformations of our lives, we remember the supreme importance of freedom as a gift from God, and that people who are made in the image of God deserve that freedom. We decry people trafficking and modern slavery, which degrade people to the level of mere possessions. Do you see? The so-called rituals of Torah teach these wonderful messages that offer to transform the world for the better. And now, as the lockdown restrictions return, we can once again contribute to the common good, not despite our Jewishness, but because of it. We proudly wear masks when required, and we graciously abide by the restrictions on travel and mixing, precisely because we are Jewish, since Judaism teaches that life is sacred, a divine gift to be preserved and respected. We care for the welfare of our non-Jewish friends and neighbours precisely because we are Jewish, since Judaism teaches that all people are made in God's image and have a birthright of freedom and respect. Let us not think, as we identify so closely with the fate of others, that our Judaism impedes our fellowship. On the contrary, Judaism is the very spirit which impels us to contribute, to make a difference. Like Avraham, we can reach across cultural barriers with a helping hand, and in doing so, we will be the best successors to Avraham's divine legacy. Thank you for listening. Stay safe.